The news on NBC 6 at 6 starts now.
Now at 6, a live look at downtown Miami, Hollywood Beach, and South Florida's most powerful radar. We're talking about First Alert Doppler 6000. A change is moving into our local forecast, bringing in some cooler temperatures. Good evening. I'm Alina Machado. We begin with First Alert meteorologist Steve McLaughlin. He has what we can expect in the next few hours. Hey, Steve.
Well, good evening. That cold front is literally coming through the area right now, and that means by tomorrow morning you wake up to temperatures in the lower to mid 50s, and that humidity gets completely wiped out. But we set some records today, about 10 degrees above normal, 87 in Miami, 86 Fort Lauderdale, 82 down in Key West. Temperatures have dropped a little bit, 82 in Miami right now and 81 in Fort Lauderdale. But the rain is coming. There is the line out ahead of the cold front. So if you're in Fort Lauderdale and Miami, you're still dry. It's going to take another hour for this rain to get to you. But western suburbs, you'll get into some of this action. Not seeing any lightning and thunder, but could have a couple of heavy downpours over the next hour or so. Weston up to Coral Springs. That is the bullseye right now as it continues to move to the east right along 595, Plantation, Davie, downtown Fort Lauderdale, all the way up to Deerfield Beach. If you're not seeing rain right now, you will be seeing rain over the next hour, and then all of this rain in Miami-Dade County also pushing toward downtown Miami. Much cooler weather on the way. We'll talk about that with our full forecast in just a few minutes.
All right, Steve, thank you. Right now, the Florida Highway Patrol is investigating a shooting that paralyzed a busy South Florida highway for hours. You see it right there. This was a scene on I-95 near Northwest 79th Street late last night, and tonight we are learning that one victim has died at Jackson Memorial Hospital. That's where we find NBC6 reporter Andrea Martinez with what investigators know so far. Andrea.
Good evening, Alina. This is just such a tragedy. The victim in that shooting that shut down 95 was brought here to Ryder Trauma last night, but unfortunately did not make it. She would have been 23 later this month. I want to give you a look at her picture now. Her name is Melissa Gonzalez. Again, just 22 years old. I spoke with her mother on the phone this evening. She says that they are just devastated, of course. Mom confirmed Gonzalez graduated from FIU last summer. Now, I want to take you over to video again from those I-95 cameras from last night. The shooting happened at around 8:30. The shooting shut down the southbound lanes of 95 on 79th Street. Now, according to Highway Patrol, Gonzalez was driving her silver Chevy sedan headed southbound when she was shot. We're being told the passenger, 26-year-old Julian Velez Cortina, also told authorities that he heard gunshots and that he noticed Gonzalez had been shot. Cortina then jumped out of the car and onto the roadway shoulder. Gonzalez was then transported here to Ryder Trauma, where she later died. Back here live now, police have not confirmed the suspect vehicle. They do not have any leads on that vehicle either. We are waiting on more information from them, but they do say the passenger, Cortina, did mention seeing the shots coming from a dark colored vehicle. So that's the information they're going with right now. Of course, we'll give you the latest on air and online as we continue following this story. For now, reporting live from Miami, Andrea Martinez, NBC6 News.
South Florida joining more than 30 cities around the country holding protests today against escalating tensions with Iran. This protest taking place at Bayfront Park in Miami. The group Torch of Friendship says it believes recent airstrikes, the assassination of Iran's top general, and withdrawal from the 2015 nuclear deal are all at the root of the problem.
We're fearful because of what Donald Trump is doing. He said he was going to take us out of these endless wars in the Middle East, and now he's getting us into a new one.
The demonstrations remained peaceful, but police officers were on hand. And across the country, more than 70 anti-war protests were held today, including one outside the White House and one in New York's Times Square. The protests were organized by the Act Now to Stop War and End Racism coalition. Actress Jane Fonda was among the protesters in Washington, D.C. Meantime, thousands of soldiers are leaving Fort Bragg in North Carolina for the Middle East. President Donald Trump ordered the deployment of some 3,000 soldiers from the 82nd Airborne Division. This as U.S. intelligence officials are trying to figure out when, where, and how Iran might strike back. We get the latest now from NBC's Chris Pallone.
American soldiers on the move. 3,500 members of the 82nd Airborne Division now headed to the Middle East, a response to increasing tension in the region after an American drone strike Thursday in Iraq killed Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. Another response, Americans taking to the streets in protest. People in 70 cities calling for an end to U.S. intervention in the Middle East, fearful the decision to target Soleimani will spiral out of control.
I think it's just starting another cascade of tit for tat, and we're going to another war.
Friday, President Trump called the drone strike an act of self-defense, but the White House hasn't provided specific evidence for the claim.
He was planning a very major attack, and we got him.
As the State Department orders Americans to evacuate Iraq immediately, Democrats on the campaign trail are questioning the president's claim that killing Soleimani has made the region safer.
We are now in a very dangerous period, more dangerous because of this president. In fact, the instability, the lack of safety in that region has been getting worse under his presence.
During Soleimani's funeral procession in Baghdad Saturday, mourners chanted "Death to America" and "No, no, Israel" as they carried portraits of the general through the streets. Chris Pallone, NBC News, New York.
And we are now starting to see the aftermath of the U.S. drone strike that killed Iran's top general. This as angry protests erupted in Iraq's capital. Our team coverage continues now with NBC's Richard Engel in Iraq.
Thousands of mourners poured into the streets of Baghdad this morning, chanting "Death to America." There's a mix of grief, anger, and a celebration of the martyrdom of Iran's top general Qasem Soleimani and a senior Iraqi Shiite militia leader killed together by an American drone strike outside Baghdad airport. The Shiite militias and their supporters on the streets today are a powerful and not universally popular force in Iraqi society. The Iraqi prime minister came out in solidarity, while Iraqi leaders are urging calm. Nearby, the U.S. Embassy is on the highest possible state of alert and readiness, with aircraft circling above, Marines inside. The U.S. military has ordered thousands of reinforcements into the region. The State Department has warned Americans in Iraq to get out. And the U.S. men's national soccer team is canceling a training trip in Qatar, fearing possible violence. Soleimani wasn't just an Iranian general. He was the second most powerful and likely most popular man in Iran. But to the Americans, Soleimani was a sworn enemy and a terrorist, blamed for orchestrating attacks on U.S. bases, oil tankers in the Persian Gulf, and a long and deadly campaign that killed hundreds of U.S. troops in Iraq after the 2003 invasion. Iran's president paid respects to Soleimani's family today. Iran has vowed to avenge his death, but it's unclear how or when, or if Iran plans to wait and serve its revenge cold.
And Iran isn't alone in promising to take revenge for Qasem Soleimani's death. Hezbollah in Lebanon, perhaps the most powerful militia in the world, a militia directly backed by Soleimani and Iran, said the response to his death will be, quote, decisive. Richard Engel, NBC News, Erbil.
Meantime, the U.S. Coast Guard intercepted a boat with Cuban migrants off the coast of Key West. The Coast Guard found the boat with 9 Cuban migrants on board Thursday, some 25 miles southeast of Tavernier Creek. One of the migrants was transferred to U.S. Customs and Border Protection custody after being brought ashore for medical care. The remaining 8 were repatriated to Cuba today. A homemade plane crashes, killing at least 1 person in Southern California. The LA County Sheriff's Department says this happened just after 10 this morning. Authorities say the homemade TM-1 Thunder Mustang burst into flames when it slammed into the ground. The pilot is believed to have been the only person on board. The FAA and the NTSB are investigating. No word yet on what caused the crash. Now to the latest on the wildfire crisis that continues to sweep Australia. We now know the identities of 2 people killed inside a popular tourist destination that has been ravaged by fire. Outback pilot Dick Lang and his son Clayton were both killed after flames broke containment lines on Kangaroo Island. The flames have destroyed buildings and burned through more than 35,000 acres of Flinders Chase National Park in the western part of the island. And a UM basketball player is asking for your help to fight the fires in his home country. Australian native DJ Volsilovic will donate $5 for every three-pointer he makes in conference play. The university also has set up a GoFundMe account for donations, which you can see on the basketball team's Twitter page at Canes Hoops. Still ahead on NBC6, the fast food chain is jumping on the vegan trend. You may be surprised to find out who. Plus,
and it might be rainy and gloomy now, but it was all bright smiles earlier today as we witnessed Oprah Winfrey electrify 15,000 plus fans at the BB&T Center. Why she was here, and we'll tell you what it means to South Florida ahead in just a few minutes.
Ahead for us, the city giving residents $500 a month, no strings attached. We'll tell you why they're doing it and how it's being spent. And good news about bringing birthday smiles to a very special group of kids. Those stories and more ahead on Nightly News.